to the furious exchange in the White House and are increasingly optimistic that relations with the US will flourish in the weeks ahead. With President Zelensky at odds with President Trump, difficult negotiations to end the war in Ukraine may now take a back seat to potentially lucrative American-Russian economic deals already being tabled behind closed doors. Privately, there's even talk of a Trump-Putin summit being fast-tracked. A key Kremlin economic envoy told me cooperation could include energy deals and is calling for the US and Russia to focus on investments, economic growth and AI breakthroughs, even posting a highly produced computer graphic on X that's showing an imagined joint US-Russia-Saudi mission to Mars. It's an appeal to a transactional Trump. But this is about way more than just money. By embracing the Kremlin, the Trump administration seems to be turning its back on the Western allies. It's unclear why, but this seismic shift in Washington's global stance may play perfectly into the hands of Moscow.
Rapidly shifting under President Trump, and some are concerned. Trump's former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster, recently said President Trump was being played by Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Meanwhile, a number of U.S. officials told CBS News that Defense Secretary Pete Hagseth issued a directive to U.S. Cyber Command to stop planning against Russia. And the reason behind the pause, just how long it's going to last, all of that is still unclear right now. National Security Institute Senior Fellow Lester Munson joins us now to discuss the latest changes in American foreign policy. Lester, thank you so much for being with us today. What do you know about that pause in cyber offensive against Russia?
Well, it's been reported that the U.S. Defense Department has indeed paused at least some cyber operations with respect to Russia. This has been rumored for a few days now, and if it's part of a package of steps the administration is taking to incentivize Russia into a ceasefire negotiations in Ukraine, then I think there's some rational basis for all of this. The devil's in the details, of course. These activities are generally classified at a very high level, so I don't think we're ever really going to be able to speak about those details on television or anything. But this is clearly part of a package of carrots and sticks that the Trump administration is rolling out to advance peace negotiations for Ukraine.
But how do you think this would ultimately affect the future of NATO?
This particular step, I don't know. I think overall the question of a peace arrangement in Ukraine is definitely testing some of the traditional assumptions about NATO. One of the assumptions about NATO that we don't really speak about openly very often is that the U.S. basically provides a defense umbrella for most of Europe through NATO. That is now coming into question because President Trump has said, Europe needs to start paying for its own defense. It needs to start providing more of the umbrella, in other words. So is that good or bad for NATO? To be frank, I kind of come down on that's actually good for NATO's side of this question. But a lot of people, good people who are trying to understand this and kind of see where things are going are a little bit worried about it and think it might be coming down on bad for NATO. So there's definitely changes afoot overall in the relationship between the U.S. and Europe, and NATO's going to be tested here as we go forward on peace talks for Ukraine.
Okay. Lester Munson, thank you so much for your time today.
So like I said before, this was all a staged argument between Trump and Zelensky, perpetrated by Trump, J.D. Vance, and little Marco Rubio, who just sat there like the little bitch that he is and didn't say a word. But it was all staged. And Trump and Vance did this, and Marco, because they wanted to back off of supporting Zelensky and Ukraine and jump further in bid with Vladimir Putin and Russia. That's what this was all about. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you all for coming back to the Black Only News and Entertainment Network. Peace, take care, be safe.